Hey, we're on the beat with Tony Morrone, and here we have Eddie Schwartz at the
Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame. Hey, Tony.
It's a Hall of Fame.
It's a Hall of Fame.
Wow. Last time I actually saw you was at this.
At the convention center downtown.
It was very dark. It was very
That's
dark.
right. Was I with Larry Gowan, I think, that night?
Yeah, Larry was there.
I think he was my date that night.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So Larry's doing very well.
He's doing very well. And so he should. He's a very talented man.
Yeah. And you're still living in Nashville?
Living in Nashville.
And still coming here for these things?
Well, I'm on the board. I work with the Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame, and I'm also on the board of the Songwriters Association of Canada, and I do some work with SOCAN as well in Nashville. So I'm still very involved in the whole Canadian situation.
This year, Rush is the special.
Rush is and Robert Charlebois are the what we call the modern era inductees. So a couple of tremendous acts. We're very excited about it.
Let's go back to Hit Me With Your Best Shot. You wrote a script. What's happened with that? I mean, you're just in the middle of ready to get it started.
Well, I think you know our mutual friend Daniel Dorr has been working on it and continues to work on it. And we've had a few setbacks and delays, but I know that he's still working on it. He's a wonderful producer and director. Works out of Toronto here. He's done all kinds of TV shows and movies, and anyway, so I'm very honored that he has taken an interest in it and continues to work on it.
And it is a great script.
Oh, thank you.
And it is still one of the #1 songs out there.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
What have you been doing in the last few years, other than this board of directors here?
I've been, I still write songs. I'm still crazy enough to think that that's a decent way to spend some time. So I've been quite active writing songs in Nashville, and have been very fortunate to have people like Rascal Flatts record my songs in the last few years, and working with a few artists, producing a few records, various artists at various levels of development, seeing if I can help the next generation, who's coming along. And it's very tough now because of revenues have gone down dramatically for a lot of reasons in the music industry. So
that's in the record industry.
Yes.
But what about songwriting itself? Like movie soundtracks are still big. In
Yep.
fact, songs and movie soundtracks seem to be bigger than ever.
Well, that's true, as a matter of fact. I mean, in fact, I think a lot of us who still make a living doing it find that a lot of our income now comes from movies, TV, even commercials. They've become very important to songwriters. So it's a very different world than it was when I started,
Well, I know Hit Me With Your Best Shot was definitely in the movie Gas. And that was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
What have you done recently that's been in a movie soundtrack?
There's a song that Larry Gowan and I wrote called The Dragon, which has been in a movie called Navy SEAL. It's not a new movie, but it's on TV all the time. Don't Shed a Tear, another song I wrote, Paul Carrack gets in movies all the time. Hit Me, of course, still to this day gets in movies pretty regularly. So it's really a lot of catalog stuff. The thing is, right now, 80s music is very, very popular. So a lot of the things I did back then, 80s and 90s.
There's a lot of resurgence back of the 80s bands.
Yeah.
Bands like the Moody Blues are back. Three Dog Night was back, reunited.
Absolutely. So I'm getting a lot of those songs I wrote in the 80s are still, very, very active in that area you're talking about.
Now all this weird music that was coming through the 90s and recently with the punk and all that, what's going on? There is a huge recurrence of the 80s songs. Do you think the new generation of kids are going to want to go right back to the 80s material?
Well, I happen to have a couple of teenage kids at home, and
look who it is there.
Yeah, and great songwriter Stan Meisner just walked by.
Yes.
Because of file sharing. I mean, one of the things that people demonize file sharing, but because all of that stuff is available now on the internet, one of the things I would say that are a benefit of file sharing is that kids are exposed to music from all eras, and my kids are no exception. So they listen to music from the 50s, from Hank Sr., Hank Williams Sr., through the folk acts of the day, Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan's early records, and John Prine. I mean, right up to Wilco and stuff that's current now. So I think kids today are exposed to music from the last 4 or 5 decades in a way that in our generation it didn't happen. and that music still stands up too. I mean, all those acts that I mentioned, all those songwriters and performers, that music today sounds as good now as it did back then.
Okay. We've been speaking to Eddie Schwartz here at the
Canadian Songwriter Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. Okay. And we're on the Nightingale site.
Thank you,
for
Tony.
Karen Nightingale.
Oh, great. Well, that's great. Hi, Karen.